I think the greatest fear was, are we really going to have enough money to retire? Do we really have what the TSP says and all of that stuff? And just I was kind of searching to figure out how I could actually retire. So I, of course, contacted OPM, and I got mixed results with OPM in terms of what would be my projected retirement date. It really happened when I turned 50, and I realized that I have almost 30 years in the government already. And way back when I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I found out I was actually part of the federal government, I said, oh, so I've already got 4 years in with the Peace Corps. That's 4 years of federal service. I wonder if that counts. And OPM said, well, yes, but you've got all these breaks in service. So I had a lot of fears in my head because I was thinking of retiring at 30 years, but what actually is 30 years when you have breaks in service? And I found out that those breaks in service, they don't count towards your federal time. So I was furloughed a few times and all of that kind of stuff. So I really lucked out by running into Brandon at one of the first retirement benefits sessions and started asking questions. And I was CSRS offset. I was not CSRS, so I was this offset category, which I had 1,000 questions about. But the cool thing was that the fear slowly started to subside as these guys started to respond to my questions and started to say, well, yes, in the regulations, this is what it says. And I would contact OPM, and they would say, well, yeah, that's right. And so slowly, I gained trust in these guys in terms of their responses and their answers to my questions. And then when the numbers came back finally, they gave me a number that said, here's how much monthly you should be getting. And then I contacted OPM, said, well, what about this date, if I retire on this date? And OPM came back, and the numbers were almost exact. I couldn't believe it. So I started to take more. It was a faith-building exercise for me, as you can tell. I really had a lot of fears, but I really wanted to retire by the time I was 57 years old, because that was my plan. And I already had a passion of Tai Chi and Qigong. I had already started teaching it. I loved the practice. It was a very health-building practice as well as fitness. So I really enjoyed that. And then with Brandon and the team's help, the RBI help, I started to realize that I really could retire at the age of 57. And so in 2012, June 1st, 2012, I went ahead and retired. And I was in Scotland at the time I retired with my 80-year-old mom and dad, who was turned 83 at the time. So there I was, vacationing, and the retirement check popped into my bank account, and I was like, oh, this is great. Why didn't I do this earlier, So I started the process in 2008. By 2012, I was retired. It was unbelievable. So I recommend it to everybody. I highly recommend it. But do think through your passions and really work towards that, having that next step worked out for you. In other words, something from within that you really do enjoy, because the federal career it's a great career. I had a great time in HHS and public health service, but retirement is a whole nother level.
In light of that fear that you had of really, if I can put it in this many words, having enough money when you retire.
Absolutely.
That's the number one fear we hear over and over and over.
Yeah.
So you had that fear going in. Today, we don't want to know all your personal financial situation for sure. Is that fear past you now?
That fear is gone. That fear is gone.